Hi everyone, myself Dr. Lakshmi Prasad, working as an associate professor in the Department of Data Science in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. In this video, I'm going to discuss about the question bank on one of the principles of data science. So, very first thing is that what is the first question is what is data science? So, data science is nothing but an art and science of acquiring knowledge through data, and the data science is all about how we are going to take the data and using it, how we're going to acquire the knowledge, and then how we're going to use that knowledge to the following tasks like making decisions, predicting the future, understanding the past and present, and create a new industries and products. Okay, so the very first thing, so what is the data science? So data science is nothing but an art, or it may be a science of acquiring knowledge through the data, and the data science is all about how we're going to take the data, acquiring the knowledge, and then how we're going to make the decisions, predicting the future, understand the past and present, and create a new industries and product. And what are the basic classifications of the data? So normally the data is going to be classified into four categories. So very first thing is that structured data and unstructured data and quantitative data and qualitative data. Okay, so these are the four types of data classification. So sometimes it is structured data and unstructured data will be able to call it as organized and unorganized data. And describe about the basic types of the data. So I have to explain in detail like, so what is the organized data? So this data is going to be stored in row and column structure where every row is going to represent the single observation and column is going to be represent the characteristics of the observation. So whereas this unorganized data, so this is the type of the data, so it should be of the free form, usually a text or raw studio signals that must be passed future to be become organized. Okay, so this organized data is going to be stored in the form of rows and columns. So where every row is going to be represent what are the observations we are going to consider. Observations we are going to, and column is going to be represent the characteristics of that observation. And unorganized data means it should be of full form. There should not be any kind of structure. So usually we can able to extract the text or maybe raw data, audio or signals that will be passed to become the future or become organized. Next one is what is the structured and unstructured data. So structured data is nothing but it should be thought of many observations and characteristics, and usually they should be organized by making the form of a table method. So which should be in the form of rows and columns. And unstructured means unorganized data, where it should be a free entity and does not allow any kind of standard organization hierarchy. This structure and unstructured is somewhat different. So where the data is going to be where the data is going to be organized in the form of tables, and whereas unstructured data should not follow any kind of standard organization hierarchy. And next one is that quantitative and qualitative data. So normally, what should be the quantitative data and what should be quantitative data? So this quantitative data able to describe using the numbers and basic mathematical procedures, including addition, that are possible on the set. And qualitative data means this can be described using the numbers and basic mathematics. So this data can generally thought of being discussed using natural categories and language. So quantitative data means this data can be described using the numbers and some mathematical procedures, including addition is going to be taken. Whereas qualitative data, this data cannot be described using the numbers and methods. So let me explain what are the examples of data or categories we are going to see. Suppose we are going to have an application like a coffee shop. Say that we are posting some observations of the coffee shops in major city using the following five descriptors. And data maybe coffee shop, and name of the coffee shop should be what type of category it is, whether it should be qualitative data or quantitative data, and revenue, it's thousands of dollars, that should be quantitative, and then zip code, it should be again qualitative. Average monthly customer, that should be quantitative, and country of origin, coffee origin, that should be qualitative. So like this, whatever based on the applications, we can able to segregate what type of data we are going to consider. So if it is a measurable one, then it should be quantitative, and then if it is not this, apart from quantitative, what we can able to call it as a quantitative. Suppose I'm going to measure weight, so weight is going to measure in kgs, height is going to be measured in centimeters. So this and all will comes under quantitative. Hair color comes under qualitative. Okay, they should not have any kind of measurements. Okay, then next question is that describe the nature of the data. So for this, we have to mention what should be the qualitative data. If I'm going to represent the attributes, then it should be qualitative. Then if I'm going to take considerable variable, then it should be quantitative. So the characteristics or traits in which the numerical value cannot be assigned or core attributes, like gender, motivation. So gender, if I'm going to take a male, female, like this, and motivation. So these are not going to have any type of measurement. So that's why it should become under qualitative. So the characteristics or traits for which the numerical value cannot be assigned is called as attributes. And the characteristics or traits for which the numerical value can be assigned is called as variables, like height in centimeters, weight in kgs. Then describe the different levels of data. So normally, just now I said this data will be of the two types, like qualitative and quantitative. Again, this qualitative is of for the types like nominal one and ordinal one. So nominal means gender, so whether it may be woman or woman, hair color, black, brown, whatever color it is, and ethnicity, Hispanic and Asian. That should be what able to call as nominal one. And suppose another type of qualitative data is that ordinal data. So ordinal means first, second, third, and orders. Letter grades like ABC, and then economic status like low, medium, high. Like this, so these are now considered the ordinal data. And next one is the discrete data. So discrete data should be one of the type of quantitative data. That means where there's a number of students in the class, a number of workers in the company, number of home runs in baseball game. So this number will be the discrete data. So discrete means we have to be some particular measurement should be the number of students in the class will be 300, a number of workers in the company is 350, a number of runs in baseball game should be 50, like this. So this number will come under the discrete data. And next one is that continuous data. So continuous data means height of the children and square footage of two bedroom flat, and then speed of the car. Where the data is going to be continuously changes with respect to time, that should be considered as the continuous data. So height of the children. So one month and the height of the children, I can able to consider as sometimes uh, 50 centimeters. In second month it should be 2 feet, and then third month it should be 3 feet, and fourth month should be 4 feet, where the data is going to be taken continuously, right? And then square footage of the two bedroom house. So one day it should be 14 inches, next day it will be 15 inches, like it is going to not change. And speed of the cars. So speed of the cars means, so in 1 second it should be 10 kilometers, in 2 seconds it should be 20 kilometers, in 3 seconds it should be 30 kilometers, like this. The speed is going on increasing. Uh, so with respect to time, that will be considered as the continuous data. And describe the different types of measurement of scales of the data. So if I'm going to take this qualitative data, so the nominal and ordinal scales are two kinds of measurement scale how to consider. And quantitative data means it should be interval and ratio scale. Next, mention the 5 steps of data science. So the data science you should be, I think, that a step-by-step process where it's going to be followed and resolves the integrity of the results. So the first 5 essential steps to be performed data science as asking the interesting question, obtaining the data, exploring the data, modeling the data, and communicating and visualizing the results. So these are the 5 steps what we have to be follow here. So asking the interesting question, is the first step, and obtaining the data and then exploring the data, modeling the data, and then communicating and visualizing the results. So let's see one by one. So asking the interesting question, that means we have to be treat this test as the brainstorming session where they going to be start writing down the questions regardless of whether or not to think what the data to answer. And these questions even exist one. And the reason for this one should be twofold. And the first one should be you don't want to start the biasing and yourself even before searching for the data. And obtaining the data. Once the questionnaire is done, so we have to be perform obtaining the data. So once we have to be selected, so then we have to be focused on it's time to score the word for the data that might be able to answer that. And next one is that exploring the data. That means it should be the pivot element step in the process. So once the step is going to be completed, so the analyst generally able to spend some hours learning about the domain and using the code and other tools to manipulate and exploring the data, what should be very good sense of what the data might be trying to tell them. So these and all will be the third steps which should be very important, obtaining and exploring the data. And next one is that model the data. So these steps is going to be involve the statistical and machine learning models. So in this one we're not only fitting and choosing the models, so we're going to be implanting the mathematical validation methods as well in order to quantify the models and then effectiveness. So communicate and visualize the results. And while it might obvious and simple, so the ability to compute the results that should be digestible format is much more difficult than it seems. And next one, what are the objectives of the data presentation? So that means so classified data is going to be more easily understood, and then it should able to present the facts in simpler form, and it should also facilitate the quick comparison, and it should also helps in further statistical treatment such as average, dispersion, etc. And it should also be detects the errors easily. So the objectives of the presentation will be that, so where the data is going to be more easily understood, and it should also be present the facts in more simpler form, and it should also be facilitates quick comparison. It should also be helpful in for the statistical treatment, and it also detects the error easily. And next one, describe the various types of classification like qualitative classification and quantification classification. So qualitative classification means that it should be geographical classification, chronological classification, and then qualitative classification. So all this classification should comes under the qualitative classification. So where the class data is going to be related to geographical applications, and where the data is related to the chronological and qualitative classification. And next one is quantification. That means where you can able to see discrete and then continuous. The next one out what are going to be described about the data presentation. So for this qualitative classification, so what should be this geographical classification? So the data that is going to be classified according to the location of the occurrence, that should be the region, areas, and then cataract points district wise. Then it should be considered as a geographical classification. Chronological classification means where the data is going to be classified with respect to the time of occurrence of observations and events. And the number of categories are also going to be arranged in chronological order. So this and all will be considered as the chronological classification. And next one is qualitative classification. So here the classification is to be done according to the attribute, and this data is going to be classified according to some qualities such as religion, literacy, sex, occupation, etc. Simple classification means, so here the classification is going to be made into classes such as classification by male and female. Suppose manifold classification means, so if the classification is going to be done more than two attributes, then it should be studied simultaneously. Example is that the classification according to the sex, again the martial status, and again literacy. So these and all will comes under this qualitative classification. And next one is that, so explain briefly about the tabulation. So that means, so it should be the process of systematic organization and recording of long series of data for further analysis and interpretation into rows and columns. So whatever the data we're going to have, so that data is going to be represented in the form of table, so that it should be the better presentation of that one. Suppose if I'm going to have the frequency distribution of the qualitative data of the characteristics. So the main female, what should be the population variance representation in the form of table. So it should be looks somewhat better understand while reading the text. Similarly, the height of the students in between 1 up to 4.5, 4.25 to 4.8, in between 4.8 to 5.11 and 6.6.5. So how many number of students are there? If I'm going to represent in the form of table, that should be better understanding. Suppose if it is there in the form of text, it should be somewhat clumsy to understand what the data exactly is. So the useful of ness of tabulation is that it should be able to present the overall view of findings in simpler way, and it should also identify the trends, and should also display the relationship in a comparable way between the parts of finding, and it conserves the space and reduces the explanatory and descriptive statement to a minimum, and it should also facilitate the process of comparison, and it also provides the various statistical computations. So this the useful of this presentation should be finding the simpler way where you can able to findings should be make easier, and you can identify the trends, and we can also establish the relationship between the findings, and we should also conserve the space and reduce the explanatory and descriptive statements. It should also make the comparison should be easy, and should also provide the basis for many statistical computations. And next one is that we have to be described about the graphical presentation. So here the graphs are going to be helpful in order to understand the data easily, and the simple picture is going to be worth 3,000 words as to common saying, and non-statistical minded people can also easily understand the data and compares them. And most common graphs and tables should be the pie chart and bar chart in a histogram in quantitative study. So graphical presentations plays a vital role. So whatever the text we are going to have, so that text is going to be put in the form of the table. From this table, again, how to construct various kinds of graphs for better understanding of that, like bar graph, pie chart, pictogram, like this. So the sequel picture is nothing. A single picture is nothing but a thousand words. So and so goes a common saying normally. And non-statistical minded people can also easily understand the data and compare them. So mostly are going to prefer the bar charts and pie charts. So some of the what are the advantages of this graphical representation? So it should be easier to read, and it should also establish a relationship between two or more set of observation in one look, and universally applicable, and it also have high communication power, and it also simplifies the complex data and also having a more lasting effect on brain. So the advantages are very useful. So when compared to the text and then tables. So by using these graphs, you can easier to read, and we should also be establish the relationship between the two sides, and it should be the universal applicable graphs, and should also have communication power, and it also simplifies the complex data, and should also going to be a long-lasting effect on brain. So the presentation, when it comes to the presentation of this qualitative data, so we're going to have bar diagram. So this bar diagram able to consist of spaced vertical and horizontal rectangular bars, and so the categories are going to be placed on x-axis, and the frequencies are going to be placed on y-axis. So the categories presentation of qualitative data. So the data will be of two types, like qualitative and quantitative, just now what I said. If I'm going to consider this qualitative data, so how the data is going to be considered, what type of diagrams I have to consider. And similarly, if I'm going to consider the quantitative data, so what type of diagrams is going to be considered. So bar diagram is going to be considered for qualitative data. So where it is going to be consist of equally spaced vertical bars with a common horizontal or vertical baseline. These categories are going to be placed on x-axis and frequencies are going to be placed on y-axis. So these are the some of the presentations of bar chart. So where the bar chart is going to be further divided into different uh, representation like simple bar, component bar, and then multiple bar. So simple bar means that so we're unable to represent uh, the variables on x-axis, whereas the frequencies are going to be presented on y-axis. So if I'm going to construct this, so I would like to know how many number of students are going to be studying BPH, and number of students are going to be studying MBPS, and B option, B formal like this. Then how to go for the simple bar diagram. And next one is that multiple bar diagram. So what is this multiple bar diagram? So for single attribute, if I'm going to mention the different values, then I can able to go for a multiple bar diagram. Like so how many number of men's and women's are there in group one, and how many number of men's and women's are there in group two. Like this, I want to know. So in CSC and triple like this, I want to represent it. Then I can able to go for the multiple bar diagram. And next one is that so component bar diagram. So what is the component bar diagram? So in component bar diagram, so each and every bar is should be matched with 100%. There is no uh, increase and decrease of bars in this kind of diagram. So all the bars should be equal, but within the bar itself we have to be segregate the sections. So this blue is going to mean for blue color people, and then brown is going to mean from brown hair people, and yellow hair, white hair people, and then blue color hair people. Like this, I can able to segregate it. Then how much I have to consider. So in Chinese, how many people are there, and then in Japanese, India, and Africa. Like this, I want to know that so that I can go for the component bar diagram. Here, the simple bar itself you can able to represent different kind of information here. Next one is pie chart. So pie chart is nothing but a circular diagram. So which is going to be divided into different segments, and each segment is going to be represent a frequency in a category. So the circular diagram means that so we are going to take a circle. So where the section is going to be divided into different forms. So if you look at this diagram, so circle, so 57.6 cat rate are there, and 3.5 people are going to be suffering from ARMD, and 14.5% is going to be suffering from coma. So like this, I can able to be segregate how much of section is going to be represented. So by in circle, then how to go for the pie chart. So it should be circular diagram where which is going to be divided into different segments, and each segment should be of the different category. And next one is that graphical representation. So some other thing should be pictogram. So pictogram means where we can able to present the data in the form of diagrams, and line diagram. So mostly this one is going to be seen when I'm going to see the cricket matches. So India versus Australia. So how much of scores it is done in 50 overs like this line graph. So mostly many of the people are going to view this, and cartogram. So this is another kind of a graphical representation we're going to be seeing in this. Okay, so like this we are going to be segregate so many presentations of graphical representation. And suppose if I am going to present the quantitative data, so then how am I going to do that? So for this we are going to have a diagram called histogram. So histogram is the graphical representation of contiguously drawn bars. So it should be more popular graph of the continuous variable. The only difference between the bar diagram and then histogram is that so we have to maintain the space in between each and every bar, then it should be a bar diagram. If I am not going to maintain any kind of space in between the bars, then it should be an histogram. So here the variables are going to be there, and here it should be the intervals should be there. So 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30, 30 to 40. So that is the only difference between this bar diagram and histogram. So once the histogram is done, so next level, what are the different types of presentations that are available for representing the quantitative diagram. So once the histogram is done, so here we have to be construct the frequency polygon. So how the frequency polygon is going to be constructed is, so once the histogram is done, so we have to be join all the midpoints of all this um, bar diagram. You have to join all the midpoints of the rectangle that are available in bar diagram. So then the curve, the polygon, what I'm getting, that should be the frequency polygon. And next one is frequency curve. So frequency curve is also same. So once the histogram is constructed, okay, so we have to join all the midpoints of the rectangles in the histogram. So with a smooth curve, the curve, then that should be the frequency curve. And scatter diagram. So scatter diagram means, so here it should be represented in the form of dots, then it should be scattered diagram. And next one should be surface air temperature. So time plot. So what is the air temperature? So from 1915 to 2100. So how the quality of air is going to be, whether it should be increasing or decreasing with respect to time. So we have to be show it. So at that time we have to be make use of this time. And next one is some other representations. What are going to have is that so stem and leaf display. So stem and leaf display is also one of the diagram. So how can able to draw this one means, suppose if I am going to have a sequence of numbers like 6, 89, I'm sorry, 68, 69, 72, 73, 74, 77, 79, and 91, 92, sorry, 96, again 91, 91, 97, 98, 99. So if you are going to have the data like this, so how the stem and leaf diagram display is going to display is, so what is the in seconds digit is going to be considered as the stem, and remind next number is going to be treated as the leaf. So in this one, what are the 6, 7, 9 I'm considering. So in 6 should be the stem, and what are the leaves of 6, 8 and 9. Suppose if I'm going to consider 7, 7 as stem, what are the leaves? 2, 3, 4, 7, 9. And similarly, if I'm going to consider 9, so 9 as the stem, what are the leaves? 1, again 1, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9. So like this, we can able to construct the stem and leaf graph. And another thing is the box and visor plot. So this is also going to be used very rarely, and this should also be one of the best of graphical representation. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.